It's pronounced cache if you're sassy. Hey, like and subscribe. Thanks. Alright guys, welcome back. So today what we're going to do is discuss a survival cache. Now, a survival cache, or a cache in general, is just a collection of items that are packed in a specific manner inside a safe container placed in an inaccessible location and then later retrieved for an intended purpose. Now, with a cache, we need to understand the intended purpose behind this cache. What are we storing it for? There are a lot of purposes out there: survival, prepping, bug out, military uses, civilian uses. But we need to understand specifically what we want to do with this cache, because that's going to dictate what items we put inside, how those items are packaged for long-term storage, where this cache is going to be placed, and then how we retrieve that cache and ultimately use it on the back end after retrieval. All right, now let's talk about our container. Doesn't matter what container we use necessarily, it just has to have a few characteristics. One, it's got to be strong. So we've got our PVC pipe here, able to withstand some pressure being buried in the ground, changes in temperature, changes in soil pressure from possibly a vehicle running over it. It's got to be strong material. Number two, it's got to be waterproof. So we have fixed our ends with pipe cement to make it waterproof and keep our attachments on here tight. And then we can even use our pipe tape around the serrations of our openings to create a watertight seal in those serrations to prevent moisture from getting inside of our container once we pack this with our items and place it in the ground. And so with the items we put inside our cache, our container itself, with our burial site, we need to do our reconnaissance up front and then choose a suitable location to actually emplace or bury our cache. Some of the things that are going to help us do that with emplacing a cache or putting it into the ground is having a burial kit. Now, as part of emplacing a cache, we need to have a burial kit with us. Now, clearly, we have a shovel or a spade so we can actually dig the hole proper. We have a probe so we can probe into the ground to ensure there aren't any large roots or rocks that are going to get in the way of digging and make it that much harder on us to actually dig the hole. Need a hatchet, small hatchet, so we can cut the roots that are down in the hole. We're inevitably going to come across some roots out in terrain like this, but having a hatchet will make it that much easier, especially if there are large roots that we missed during our probe. We're going to want to bring a crowbar or some sort of demolition tool like this, demo tool. We can get in there and actually lift up or leverage the rocks out of the way if they're down in the hole. Next, we want some sort of spare bag. In this case, it's a clear 55-gallon drum liner. It's about 3 mil in thickness. This is for leftover dirt. Once we put our cache in, we're going to have leftover dirt going to be sitting on our poncho. We can place it in this, carry it out with us, and then dump this in a creek or a swamp to destroy any evidence that we were out here digging in the first place and leave no trace around our cache that we were ever here. And clearly you see a tarp or a poncho. That way we can collect all the dirt, put it back on, and minimize our footprint here while we're trying to emplace this cache. Some smaller items that are important for emplacing a cache: headlamp, so we can see in the dark. Laser rangefinder is important because it can give us accurate distances to reference points or to our final reference point from our cache to give us an accurate distance to walk, and then all we have to do is shoot that azimuth, give that direction and distance up in a report for someone who may have to come back and actually find this cache. So laser rangefinder, accurate measuring tool. The another thing that will help us is some nylon cord, something that can sit in soil or in the earth for an extended period of time. We're actually going to use this to tie around the body of the cache so we can pull it out easily without actually having to dig or bang around the cache and take a chance at damaging the actual container. Measuring tape good, so we can measure the container before we place it in and make the smallest hole possible in the earth while still having the ability to put that container inside. GPS, GPS to pinpoint the cache, pinpoint reference points, and then give accurate grids to whoever may dig up this cache. Compass, land navigation, important skill, especially out here putting in a cache. Let's head to the whiteboard really quick and talk about emplacing a cache as part of a patrol. Stepping up to the whiteboard, this is our diagram for cache emplacement. This site, center mass, has been determined to be a suitable location for a cache based off of map and terrain analysis, the effects of enemy and civils in the area, weather, and then environmental effects as well. Now for our diagram, we have a linear danger area at the bottom running east to west. Our direction of travel as we conduct our infill is from east to west, moving along the route. At some point along that route, based on our patrol and our plan, we have a disappearance point. This disappearance point is where we pull off into the woods. Pull off into the woods and then immediately dogleg and conduct a short halt. We're going to conduct seals and then establish security at this short halt. The purpose of this short halt is to ensure that we weren't seen and we're not being followed by someone into the woods. Continue our movement, but here's where we prep everything for clearing the cache site, making sure there's no enemy or civilian activity at the cache site, and then preparing all mission essential equipment prior to going into the cache site to actually emplace our cache. At the cache site, the leader is establishing a reference point and then a final reference point, distance and direction, bisecting the pinpointed cache site because someone else might have to come and recover the cache and they need detailed instructions. At the cache site, leader will pinpoint the cache with a 10-digit grid and then get grids to our final reference point and the other reference point that bisect the pinpointed cache location, later to be collected in a report. Move back to the objective rally point. There, 100% men, weapons, and equipment prior to moving out, and then move out along an established route plan to a short halt or a security halt to ensure, again, that we aren't being followed. From this point, dogleg again, change direction, order of movement, and then here at a templated dump site is where we dump leftover dirt or debris from the cache site at a different location to reduce suspicion at the cache site or here that a cache has been in place in this area. Now moving from the dump site, we establish a long halt. This is 200 to 400 meters or so from our reappearance point at the LDA. We're going to kick out security. Security will first ensure they have cover, change into different clothing if they need to, cross-load equipment, and then prepare for exfil. That security will kick out, establish security at the LDA, giving the OK sign when all is clear, and the remainder of the patrol will kick out, reappear along with the security, and then continue direction of travel on the LDA as if nothing had ever changed. So we've talked about patrolling techniques for emplacing a cache, items that go inside, a little bit of wrapping knowledge, the container itself. Now let's talk about burial. So we're going to do burial as our cache method. There are two other cache methods that we can use. One is concealment, where we just conceal items in a location. Usually it's for smaller items like money. When you hide money in your boot, you're concealing that. And then submersion. Submersion, taking a cache and hiding it underwater, is another method. But today what we're going to do is burial. Now with burial, we move to the point where we're actually going to dig the cache. We can use our compass and our laser rangefinder to get an accurate distance and direction from a reference point and then a final reference point, bisecting at the exact location where we bury the cache to give those instructions, those distances and measurements to someone else in case they have to dig up this cache. So first thing we do, grab our probe and we probe the ground at an angle about 18 inches deep or so to ensure there aren't any large rocks or large roots in the way. It'll make digging that much easier. All right, next we get out the container and measuring tape, measure off the distances for our hole that we're going to dig, our length and our width to ensure that it's just large enough to get our container into, as you can see here, but not too big that we have a lot of dirt left over. We want to minimize our footprint at the cache site. Next, we just start digging. We grab our E-tool, we lay out our poncho or our tarp, and we start digging our hole. It's best to take the dirt off in layers and separate those layers on top of our poncho because we're going to put those layers back on the way we found them. Now that our hole is dug, we're going to emplace our cache. One thing we can do to make this a little bit easier when we come back to retrieve this is get nylon cord, something that can sit inside a hole, inside the earth for an extended period of time without decaying. And we're just going to tie it around our container. This nylon cord is not just so we can find the container in the earth, all right, that we're looking for. This is not going to sit at the top of the hole. This is going to go down in the hole with the container. This cord is simply so we can just pull the container up out of the ground. All right, so we are ready to emplace our cache. And just put it in the ground as best as possible. It's not going to be too deep for sake of demonstration today, but pack the cord in along the side so we know which side it's on. And then now we can replace the dirt along the sides of the cache in the burial spot, and then replace the top layer of soil and then the debris that was over top of the ground to conceal this. We'll clean up, collect all the dirt, and then move out away from the cache once we sterilize this spot. But now we're left with a problem. We've got all this leftover soil right here. All right, we've got two solutions for our dirt problem. Number one is we pack all this dirt up and we just carry it out of here. That way we have the dirt with us. We're not leaving any traces of our presence, and we can come back with that same dirt. Once we retrieve our cache, replace all the dirt back in the hole, making up that empty airspace that the container is now occupying in our cache site, and we're good to go. All right, option number two is that we take this dirt, go on down to the creek, and throw it in the creek to be washed away, leaving no trace of our presence. The only problem is that once we retrieve the cache from inside the burial site, we're going to have to replace that empty airspace that the cache was occupying with rocks and sticks and other materials from around our area, leaving some sign that we were here. The last few things we need to do before we leave is make sure we can seal the area a little bit better, make sure it looks just like it was when we got here, make sure we have all our tools and all our items with us before we leave, and then sterilize this area as best as possible. Something that I like to do, at least in my area, is put a little bit of extra security over the cache site. We could conceal a deer camera or a hunting camera like this one on a tree, and then have it overwatching our cache site to see what activity there is during that time. And it's easy to explain away because we were just out here hunting and placing cameras. Now let's talk about recovery. Now when we come out to retrieve our cache, it's basically the same process, just in reverse. We have our primary alternate routes that we use to come in. We have our escape plan, compromise plan. We have all the details organized so we can come out, retrieve this cache and the items inside, and then leave this area without being detected. We're going to probe using our probe stick. Hear that telltale sign that there is an object in there. Continue to probe and determine the orientation if we forgot, or if we're the other person coming out here attempting to find this cache. We can use the probe to determine orientation. I can already tell it's buried like this. Do not use the E-tool in this configuration where we use it like a pickaxe to actually dig into the ground, because we may actually damage the container using the pickaxe method with our E-tool, and then that container is no good to us anymore. We want to save that container. So it's important to dig away very gently until we find that container, find that nylon cordage, and then pull it out of the hole. Now, same rules as last time. Finish covering the area, sterilize everything, make sure we leave no trace of our presence, make sure we have all of our gear, and don't leave anything behind that could indicate that we were here, especially that we were emplacing a cache. But now, our burial kit and retrieval kit can be the same kit. One item, highly recommend when using PVC, especially with the lid attachments like here with the square on top, that you bring with you as part of a retrieval kit is just this handy dandy special tool. I forget the name of it, but it's just got two prongs on it, so it will fit on top of the square on our opening of our lid. Because of the watertight seal in there with the pipe tape and then freezing temperatures or changes to conditions, this may be extremely hard to get off, and even harder if we're just using our bare hands. So having this tool will help take this lid off or get it loose enough to where we can actually get at it with our hands and then retrieve the items inside. Use clothing for cushion inside of our cache to cushion all the items, protect them inside, and reduce noise when we transporting the cache out to the site. Clothing can also be used to change into because we're covered in dirt right now. We walk back into a built-up urban area, everybody's going to know we were out here playing in the dirt. It's going to draw suspicion. So changing our clothes reduces suspicion, and it changes our appearance in case people observed us walking into this area. We have a change of clothes now to reduce the chances of detection as we walk out. Video on survival cache, a lot of detail and a lot of things that we just can't cover in a short video, but hopefully that's enough to get a starting point. So if you did like this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave me a comment in the comment section. I always appreciate your feedback. I want to thank you guys for everything you do for me, for the channel, for all your likes, your views, your subscriptions, your comments, your feedback, and your shares. And I'll be back with another video as soon as I can, guys. Thanks.